Welcome back to another episode of the Fine Food Freedom Podcast. And not only is this the Fine Food Freedom Podcast, but this is the 10 weeks of diet culture series. So welcome back to the pod. My name is Sam Previtt. I am your host, and I'm so happy that you're here. And I felt like we really needed to get back to our roots. You know what I'm saying? If you look at TikTok last year around this time, I did a series called The 12 Days of Diet Culture. And that was every single day, the 12 days leading up to Christmas Day. I debunked a diet, talked about a diet that we don't support. And I thought, okay, how can we do this again? But let's bring it on the pod, right? Let's amplify it and let's talk about it a little bit more. So I actually had this idea closer than 12 weeks out from Christmas. So I was like, well, shit, we can't call it the 12 weeks of diet culture. So that's why it's called the 10 weeks of diet culture. So today marks 10 days until Christmas week. And we're going to break it all down. And I thought, you know what? We got to start with some of the big hitters. So hold on to your pants because we're talking about Noom today. Now, before we get into Noom and all things Noom, I want to pull up a Fine Food Freedom win of the week, and I'm just going to adjust my mic here. I feel like I need to sit back a little bit. All right, here we go. Okay. So let's do the Fine Food Freedom win of the week. We have, this was a DM that came in. And I always do this where when I screenshot it, I cut out the person's name. So I apologize that I'm not giving a shout out to this person's first name. I need to get better at that. But nevertheless, it's an amazing win. This person said, "Hi, Sam. I want to thank you for coming into my life via Instagram. Happy to be here. In 2021, when I started my journey, your words helped me so much. I am now the happiest I have ever been. The best part is I am 59. And 3 years ago, when I started my journey, I wanted to be the happiest I could be before I turned 60. Life is so good. Thank you." First of all, that was like one of the coolest Fine Food Freedom wins to get, like a DM of the fact that this human that never even worked with our team at Fine Food Freedom just follows us on Instagram and listens to our podcast and our content and, you know, maybe some of our master classes and all of those things. And 3 years goes by. She's about to turn 60 years old and she's like, life is fucking good. And that is what food freedom is all about. I cannot stress it enough, is that when you stop obsessing about food and your body, you can start to be present and enjoy what's actually important to you in life, not counting calories, portions, macros, step counts, whatever it is, but being able to be present in life's most beautiful moments. So thank you to that person who sent that beautiful message in. It's always great to hear those kind of things. All right, it's time for, I feel like I have to have like a jingle for this. Well, first of all, how fucking cool is the podcast intro? For those of you who heard it, like our podcast editor did an amazing job with that. I just like, we had to do something like fun and holiday themed. So love that. But now I feel like we just need to sing like, "It's the most wonderful time," except it's not, because really, like, is it really the most wonderful time of the year? I don't know. So sure, love holiday seasons, don't get me wrong, but it comes with a lot of stress. And most importantly, the reason that we're all here today, it comes with a lot of diet culture. We all know that come January 1st, these weight loss programs and diet programs are going to be fucking loud. They're going to be obnoxious. They're going to be in your face. And that's why it is so important to stay grounded, stay safe, get support that you need. And so that's why we're doing these podcast episodes. So 10 weeks of diet culture. Here we go. Episode 1, kicking off with Noom. Now, funny thing is, Noom has been a topic on our podcast for years now. Like, I'm so sick of talking about it. If you go back to the Fuck Diet Culture Friday series we did, I want to say back beginning of this year, maybe it was even in 2022. It was probably a year ago. You'll find a Fuck Diet Culture Friday episode that I did specifically on Noom, right? And I break down Noom and why we don't support it and all of these things. And then now we actually have to talk about additional things because now there's Noom Weight and Noom Med. And so we're going to get into all things. But before we do that, I want to set the stage. Okay. This podcast is not meant to be a substitute for professional advice. It is so important to recognize that even though I am a dietitian, this is a podcast and this is for informational and educational purposes only. I also want to be very, very clear that I don't want anyone to feel guilt or shame if they've ever done Noom before, if they're currently doing Noom, if they're considering Noom. This is not being about anti-people who have done Noom. This is anti-Noom, okay? Those are two very different things. And it's easy when we're really wrapped up in diet culture and when so much of our identity is with dieting to feel like defensive or like if I'm speaking about this program, for example, Noom, that I think is bullshit, to think like, if I'm doing Noom, do you think I'm bullshit? No. Here at Find Food Freedom, we support people who have dieted for what feels like their entire life, right? The Find Food Freedom win of the week I just shared, that person who is, turning 60 years old, right? She had so much of her life that she's dieted. And so everybody has a dieting past, like the majority of people. I've talked to very, very few people that have not dieted. And if you haven't, you are a lucky human. So this is not about not having a dieting past. This is not about feeling guilt or shame if you have dieted or if you've done Noom, but this is about this episode, this series is about debunking why, as a registered dietitian and certified intuitive eating counselor, I do not support Noom. Okay. So Noom. Oh, Noom. We go way back. Me and Noom. You can pretty much look up Find Food Freedom Noom and you'll get blogs, podcast episodes, pieces of content, like all of these things that I've put out there about Noom. But I wanted to choose Noom to start this series because since they have launched Noom Med or Noom Weight, they have so many things going on. I've gotten hundreds and hundreds of DMs over the past few months of showing how Noom is now, partnered with this telemedicine platform to now be able to supply weight loss drugs to their users or their clients. I don't know what they call the people that do Noom. So, okay. We could almost do like a 17-part series to this podcast. So I want to be very clear about what we're going to cover today. We're going to cover why we don't support Noom. Now, you can go back and listen to that Fuck Diet Culture Friday episode that we did about a year ago that breaks down Noom, but there's a huge piece of the puzzle missing, is that back then they weren't prescribing weight loss medications. Back then, Noom was a simple diet, exercise, and restriction program, pretty much. But they didn't call themselves that. And that's what really grinds my gears about Noom. So Noom was started back in 2008. They've been around for a really long time. I feel like they've definitely become like a bigger hitter, where it's Noom and Weight Watchers. And specifically, those two are the ones that are now partnering with this telemedicine platforms to offer the weight loss drugs. Now, Noom, when they started out, they were not really they weren't showing their true colors. When they started out as a company, they were co-opting a lot of the intuitive eating language and and they were paying a shit ton of money on Google with SEO, because when you would search anti-diet programs, Noom was one of the first things that would come up, and it would say like anti-diet, stop dieting, live your, all of these things that you might hear from maybe like myself, like an intuitive eating dietitian or someone who's in a weight inclusive space say. So Noom was co-opting this language and making it really confusing, because you would click on that and be like, oh, I don't want to diet anymore. I'm going to do Noom. And it's like, whoa, 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 hold up. Noom is a diet. But they were positioning themselves as not being a diet. And that is a huge fucking problem. How confusing, right? Someone doesn't want to diet anymore, and Noom says they're not a diet, but they're a fucking diet. And let's talk about why. A diet is anything that promises intentional weight loss, right? Intentional weight loss is the purpose of dieting. We restrict ourselves, we move our bodies, we eat certain things, we eat certain portions, calorie ranges, meal plans, whatever it is, for the sole purpose of chasing a smaller body. And that is what Noom does. Now, why they really piss me off is, like I've just said, they really play on some of the words that we use over here in the weight inclusive space to make people feel like it's a safe space and it's not a diet, but it is. And so you'll see in a lot of their marketing, and I still to this day, like I watched some videos on Noom before I hit record today. You'll see that Noom still talks about how they use psychology, like they're a psychology-based eating program. Fuck off, Noom. First of all, when we talk about psychology related to food and like somebody's relationship with food and morality tied to food, we want to create neutrality, right? Like to have a healthy relationship with food, to have a positive relationship with food. We don't want to have morality tied to food. And one of Noom's like cornerstones is their stoplight approach to food, where they have food spread on their little stoplight approach, right? Where it's like, here's your green foods that are like, go, great, good for you, eat a lot of these. Here's the yellow foods that are the sometimes foods. And here's the red foods where you really need to avoid or watch how much you're eating of these. That is like disordered eating 101. How do you want to give someone disordered eating or lead them to an eating disorder? Let's give them a stoplight approach to food. So it makes me so angry when a company is saying like, we help with psychology, when they're literally making it worse. Like I can't. Also, I can't tell you how many clients that we have supported at Find Food Freedom that have come from Noom, right? Noom was one of their most recent diets that they had done. They thought they weren't dieting. Like, this is the story I've heard from so many clients, where they went to Noom thinking they were walking away from dieting, right? And then they went to Noom, they got assigned a air quotes coach, whatever that means, who put them on a 1,200 calorie diet, gave them the stoplight approach to food. Air quotes is using psychology, but really just fucking up their relationship with food more. And then these clients would come to us being like, holy shit, I thought that I wasn't dieting. And it really fucked with my head, because it was basically my Fitness Pal, but more expensive, with a coach. And so I also can tell you that so many of my clients that have gone through using Noom would bring up to their coach, like, I feel really out of control around food, or here's some issues, or here's some things I'm struggling with. And the Noom coach was like, we can't help you with that. And you know what? Touche. I'm so happy that they actually, in that instance, like, we're like, no, it sounds like we can't help you. But then don't go touting around that you are this psychology driven thing to help people heal their relationship with food, when clearly you're not. So that was like basically my Fuck Diet Culture Friday episode with Noom, just condensed into a shorter version. But now we need to talk about Noom Med, right? And basically, these companies, specifically Noom was created by two engineers, by the way, not registered dietitians, not psychologists, not therapists, but two engineers. This company is 100% for profit. Like they're after money. They want to make money. And you can even look up, I'm pretty sure on the Better Business Bureau, or if you just Google like, I can't I can't cancel my Noom account. There's been thousands and thousands of cases of people saying like they got stuck with their Noom payments because they feel like they got bamboozled into their membership and like couldn't get out of it. So these companies are for profit. And when they are for profit and they're going to do anything to make money. And if the way that diet culture is transforming in 2023, the way I've seen it transforming is that we are, and I say we, not me, diet culture is pathologizing obesity. And I use that word with heavy air quotes. I don't use that word in my practice, but you see that in the media, right? People saying you now have this disease of obesity. First of all, the size of somebody's body is not a fucking disease. If that were true, like think about the amount of people that reside in larger bodies, or maybe you yourself, where like all of your blood levels, like everything's in normal range. But now all of a sudden, boom, because you're a certain BMI, oh, you have a disease. Well, what's wrong with me? Oh, the size of your body is a disease. Are you fucking serious? So, and I have so much content on that, and there's so many podcasts that we could go. And I'm trying to stay with Noom, so I apologize because I'm going off in many directions now. But I want you to recognize that the way that diet culture and truly the medical care in America is pathologizing obesity as a disease. As we see this ramp up, we're going to see diet culture and the dieting industry do exactly what Noom and now Weight Watchers is doing, where they're trying to say it's air like I don't even know how to say this, air quotes, medically based, right? There are doctors prescribing Ozempic, Wegovy, all of these weight loss drugs, but the size of somebody's body is not a disease. And this is really the root issue here. Now, I want to make it very clear, if you're someone who takes weight loss medications, you're taking Wegovy, Ozempic, you're thinking about it, this is not about guilting or shaming people who are taking the drugs or who are considering it. What I want to plant a seed with, whether it be with Noom, weight loss, Noom Med and getting weight loss drugs, or just the drugs in general, is thinking about, okay, why do we want to take these drugs, right? Why do we want to take these drugs? And if the reason is for my health, right? Like I want better health outcomes, right? I want to genuinely improve my health. Well, I'm here to just plant the seed that there are so many things we can do that will positively impact our health, genuinely improve our health, that don't have to do with intentionally shrinking the body. For example, foods that we eat, our hydration, sleep, stress management, movement that you enjoy, or rest, right? These are all parts of the determinants of health, and looking at our individual behaviors and all of the things that I just named, you can start to look at uncoupled from changing the size of your body. Now, as a registered dietitian, as a certified intuitive eating counselor, I cannot state this enough, that I'm not here to shame anybody who's done Noom or has taken weight loss drugs or is considering these things. I just am here to plant the seed and ask you why. And going back to Noom, and the whole reason that we're here today is they really started their company out saying like, we're not a diet. We're not a diet. And it's like, yeah, you are. And I think it's recognizing that, okay, at least now they're just calling themselves Noom Weight, right? Noom Med. They're touting weight loss drugs. They're selling weight loss drugs. They're pushing weight loss drugs. They're now finally calling a spade, I believe, and stepping forward and saying, this is what we're doing. And the reason I think they're doing that is because they don't want to be forgotten. They don't want to go out of business. They're a for-profit and they want to make money. And we look at, Jenny Craig was a company that was around for 40 plus years and now is out of business because they weren't pushing weight loss drugs. And that's like this new diet culture era. So I'm really excited that next month in the Fine Food Freedom membership, we're going to have Dr. Asher Larmy, one of our favorite doctors, come and speak to our members about weight loss drugs, about these injections, all of the side effects, the symptoms, the questions. If you're someone who has questions about them and you just haven't known where to turn, this is going to be a great resource to have. So that'll be taking place in the end of November. So something to definitely keep your eye out for. So as we wrap this episode today, what I want to say to you is, Noom, your diet. We know that, right? Like you tried to hide it for a really long time. Your entire intention of everything that you do is to get people to lose weight. You tried to say you weren't a diet. Now you're pushing weight loss meds. You're clearly a diet. Now, if you're someone who today is like, you know what? I heard what you said and I still want to try it. I'm not here to convince you not to diet. I'm here for you to just plant a seed, to think about things differently and wonder, what if? What if there is another way that I can live my life that's not obsessing about food, that's not obsessing about body image, that's not obsessing about movement and every freaking calorie that is around me? So if you enjoyed this episode, please, please, please let us know, rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. I would also love to hear from you what diet you want to see next in our 10 Days of Diet Culture series on the podcast. So you can just send me a DM on Instagram at find.food.freedom. Let me know what diet you want to see next. We definitely have a bunch floating around that we want to cover, but we really wanted to just start with Noom. Say, here at Fine Food Freedom, we do not support Noom. It is not something that we would suggest if you're trying to heal your relationship with food and body. So if you're looking for more resources, you want free resources, you want masterclasses, you want more support, you're saying, oh shit, I'm on Noom right now and I'm going to walk away and I don't want to be on Noom anymore, then we would absolutely love to support you. And you can go to findfoodfreedomresources.com. Again, that's findfoodfreedomresources.com. You're going to see free masterclasses there. You're going to see our monthly membership, our coaching options. So if you're somebody who wants additional support today, please do not hesitate to reach out. And we will see you next week for episode 2 in our 10 Weeks of Diet Culture series. See you next week.